right. Thanks everyone for joining. Appreciate you taking the time out of your day to meet with Level and talk about what our new release contains. I'm Jacob. I'm the CEO and founder. It's great to see everyone here. Here with Derek. You want to jump in?
Yeah. My name is Eric Schultz. I'm an account executive here at Level. What I'll be doing is I'll just be monitoring the chat, making sure their questions go answered. I'm gonna ask everybody to make sure questions stay within the Q&A section. That way we can make sure we don't miss anything. But other than that, I'm just here for moral support. I'll pass it off to Quentin.
Hey guys, my name's Quentin. You probably see me in support, helping out with tickets. I'm just here to make sure things run smoothly and answer your questions as Jacob's presenting.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'd love to start just kind of talking about what's coming next and giving you just a quick preview, a quick sneak peek of where we're going with Level over the next 30 days. After that, I'll dive into what's new with today's release and go through a quick demo of those new features. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with this sneak peek. The biggest feature that's coming up next for Level is going to be reporting, and this will be coming out next month. We're going to have 3 different sections within reporting to start with, and the first will be just a general overview of your devices, their health, the posture, the split of your endpoints, and you'll be able to narrow down any of these reports to specific device groups, which for most of you or many of you, that's going to be customers. And then we'll also have a security report, which will really give you a quick overview of the patch status, the most vulnerable devices, endpoints that you might need to spend or invest more time. These reports are all going to be shareable, so you'll be able to export them and share them with your clients and customers. And finally, the last report we're calling the Insights report. And this just really gives an ROI that you can provide to your customers to show how you're saving them time and how you're helping them through managing their endpoints. We're really excited about these features. We also have a bunch of new automation actions and some new triggers and conditionals coming as well. But for today's release and what's new, our biggest feature is going to be the automation file storage. So let's dive in. I'm going to start by jumping over to automations. And now you'll note there's a new section here called files. And what this does is allow you to have a centralized repository built into Level where you can upload files and then reference those files in your automations and your scripts moving forward. Previously, this was kind of tedious to do. You would have to upload files to Dropbox or OneDrive or build your own web server or utilize some type of CDN to have a public location where your scripts can download from. Now you're able to do that right from Level. So say I want to upload some files here. I'll select a few from my computer. I can just drag them right here in, and we'll see them upload in real time. And now these files can all be utilized directly in our automations. So let me dive into automations and show you some of those new actions that we've added. Okay, so right off the bat, you're going to note that there's a few new actions here, namely start process, stop process, and manage services. So one of the key goals that we have with automations is to enable anyone and everyone to build complex automations with low code or no code. We want to enable everyone to be able to build these really powerful automations with little effort. And so we're working toward building and adding a bunch of new native automations that are built in that work on every platform. Historically, if you wanted to manage processes or services or upload files or execute files, you would have to write code differently for each of those applications. And I'll show you what that looked like before versus now. But right now we have these 3 new actions: start process, you provide the path, the arguments, and a timeout, and we'll be able to start that process. Same with stop process, just give us that process name. And then with service, provide the name of the service, the startup type, and what do you want us to do? Start, stop, or restart that service. Next, you'll note we have some new file management capabilities now built in. The first we've already touched on, this is download file. You're able to select a file directly from your repository, select where, configure where you want that file to be saved at, and the name. And then we have download file from URL. Again, previously you were doing this all within a script. The downside of that is for Windows, you would write a PowerShell script to download. For Linux, you would write a bash script and use curl. And for Mac, you might also use curl, but a different variant of the bash script. Now you don't have to worry about writing any code to download those files. You can just give us the URL, again, the destination path and the file name. So those are the new actions. Let's dive in and kind of show you examples of how you would do this traditionally versus how you can do it now. Okay, so let's pull up an example of Sentinel-1. This is a really good kind of classic example of utilizing a script to install software. So if we take a look at this script, you'll note we have some download links, and then we're running some checks. We're downloading that file. So all of this could be replaced now with your download action. And then we're running the installer. If you note, really all this is doing is starting the process. So now with Level, you can do this all built in. So let's take a look at how that would work. So in this case, you'll note we are downloading the file. Let's just edit this action real fast here. Directly from our repo, I just select the file I want, choose where I want it saved and what I want it called. I have two different versions here, an ARM version and an AMD version for Windows. So I run a quick script before that just to detect, is this ARM, is this AMD, what type of computer is this? And then in the download action itself, if the architecture variable contains AMD, then I download the AMD version. Otherwise, I download the ARM version. Again, this is much, much better than before. Then here we're calling the install script. If this weren't Sentinel-1 and there's a lot of things that have to be checked, we could actually replace this as well with just a start process action. And if we wanted to kind of preview what that looks like, we can do that. So let's jump in here and let's give this a shot. So if we wanted to do this, we could go start process, give the path of the executable. So for our script, I'll look that up in just a second. And then we have kind of the list of vars that we're passing. So we would have to go in the script and analyze this. But let's do that. Let me drag this back up in action. Okay. So we can see here, the path is going to be program files Sentinel-1. And then we have, these are our install arc variables. And let's see, where is exe path? Okay, the exe path is temp s1.exe. So we would go and this Sentinel-1 token is actually going to be referencing the custom field. So in theory, if Sentinel-1 didn't have a bunch of extra things to check, we could just call this start process action, which would be really great. Alternatively, if we go back to the traditional example that we had before, here we can see we had variables set of like all the different locations that we're trying to download from. Again, having to host that public web server. If you're still doing that method and you want to maintain using your own public web server, now instead of downloading within the script, you can just provide the URL right here within the action, and we can take advantage of that. And you can still use conditionals here, like to check if the device is AMD or ARM. If we wanted to take an example, another example of what this might look like, we can take a look at LibreOffice, which is a solid Office platform that's free. Again, very similar. We were just going to grab the architecture. Is this AMD or ARM? And then based on that architecture, we're going to select the correct file from our repository, the AMD or the ARM version. And then we're going to just execute that. And in this case, this script could totally be entirely replaced with the start process action. So we should do that to clean that up. And I'll save you the pain of doing that since I just did it with the Sentinel-1 process, but I should have done it with this one. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about one other feature that we snuck into this release, which is an extra conditional that you can use in your actions and your triggers moving forward. And that is a hostname conditional. So some users have situations where they need to run things on very specific endpoints, and this enables you to do that. So you can either check where the hostname contains or it's equal to something very specific. That's going to be available in all of your actions and your triggers. Like I mentioned earlier, we're constantly trying to expand the capabilities here and make this more powerful. So we have a lot of different conditionals that have been added over the last few releases. So make sure to review that consistently and check. Like action status, I think was added a few releases ago, but you can also utilize variables and custom fields right here in your actions as well. All right. I think that covers what I wanted to dive into for this release. I'd like to just kind of turn it over to you guys. If you have any questions, anything that you would like answered about level, or if you'd like me to cover just a quick demo of certain pieces, I'm happy to do that, or we can dive into specific questions you might have.
While we wait, Jacob, why don't you go over the create an alert that you had in that was those automations. Those are pretty helpful for when you're installing software by the masses.
Yeah, that's a great point. And this is something that we've started doing in all of our automations. So in this case, if this script fails, you'll notice that on failure, we're going to suppress and continue to the next action. And we're saving the output of this script to a variable that we can reference later. But if that script fails, we're going to conditionally create an alert for each device that has the issue. And in this case, we're going to call the alert, Sentinel-1 install failed, and we're going to provide all of the logs in that payload. And you'll notice that this step is conditional, so it's not going to create an alert every time this automation runs. It's only going to create an alert if that script execution fails. Another good example of doing this is patching. And I've started modifying all of our patch automations to do this as well. So here we can take a look. Again, we're going to patch windows, and you configure your categories and your delay days as you'd like. Suppress and continue on failure. Save the output of this action to a variable. And you'll note here we even have retry. So we're going to try to install those patches a few times before we consider this step failed. And then right here, we create a new alert if that step fails. So if we failed to install Windows updates after 3 attempts, then we're going to create a new alert, and the payload of that alert is going to be the output of the update install action itself. And you don't have to build all of this from scratch. Our library has this automation built in, and you can see we have the alerts there. So you could just one-click import that in, and we have that for each OS, or if you prefer just one big automation for all your operating systems, we also have that.
Question for you, Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
When can we expect, this is a roadmap related question, so when can we expect a mobile app or responsive capabilities?
Yeah, I wish I had an answer for that. Let's see. It's going to be tricky. I would say probably not this year, but we are in the process of doing some major redesigns. But yeah, the difficulty is there's just so much data to display that on smaller screens, it becomes really challenging to decide what to show and how to show that. But it's certainly something that we'd love to have at some point in the future, but I don't have an ETA or a timeline, unfortunately. But if this is important to you, I encourage you to add it to our feature request page and upvote that so we know that it's important.
Thank you, Jacob. Next question. Do you all have plans to incorporate some sort of documentation repository where we can store information as it relates to each client?
That's interesting. It's certainly not something that we would be opposed to adding. We have a fair amount of documentation that kind of comes in from the agent itself in a dynamic manner, right? Everything here under system. But you're right, like as far as you adding things, we really just have this one note filled. I guess I'd love to talk to you, Jamie, and kind of understand what exactly you want to document. Some of this could be documented through custom fields like encryption keys, passwords. But yeah, I think we'd love to expand our capabilities in that regard. And I'd love to see like a feature request with some suggestions there, and we'll do our best to address that.
Great, thank you. Another question from Andrew. Do you plan to add a capability to monitor or slash trigger based on Windows event logs?
Yeah, so to be clear, you could do this now. It's a little tedious. You would use some type of script-based monitor to pull that in, but it would be trivial. You could definitely do that, and our support team can help write that for you. But yeah, we definitely want to add that, and in the future, we will have a native way for you to monitor of Windows event logs. That's going to be coming out this year, I would say.
Great, thank you. It's also worth noting, yeah, it got brought up in the chat that patch policies are going away and being replaced by automations. That's pretty important. Would you dig a little deeper into that and why that's happening?
Sure. Yeah, we have a great blog post, and we're trying to make that more and more obvious in the app that it is being deprecated. But primarily, there's a few key reasons. One, patch policies themselves don't allow you to control what happens before a patch window or after a patch window, which is, it kind of sucks for a lot of reasons. Generally, people want to maybe create a system restore point before a patch. They might want to update third-party patch applications as well. So we're shifting all of this into automations, and automations gives you complete control over your patch process and more control than you would have from patch policies, right? Patch policies only allow you to control devices, what devices enter a policy through tags. This allows you to, of course, use tags, schedules, we can use groups. There's just substantially more power here, and we can create alerts when patching fails. So again, with patch policies, we would send out a summary at the end of a patch window. That's not the most helpful. And in this case, we're actually creating alerts that contain actionable information. So yeah, we definitely would encourage everyone to migrate to automations for handling patches. And like I mentioned, we have several automations pre-built in our library that you can import with a single click.
Sweet. One more question, and I don't believe there's any more after this. What about alerts through webhook? Can you create an alert through a webhook?
Yes, you could create an alert through a webhook. Let's do this. Alert through webhook. All right, so what we want to do is first create a webhook trigger and select the devices that we want to target. So maybe I'm going to target every device with the debug tag here. Okay, so now we have this webhook. It has this URL that we can reference to, and anytime we hit that URL, this automation is going to run now. So now we want to create an alert. And yeah, that's as easy as it would be. Let's see if I have any devices tagged with debug real fast. I don't, so let's tag a couple. Okay. Now, in theory, if we jump back to that automation that I just created, I think it was, did I call it test? No, I called it like webhook, right? Alert through webhook, here we go. So now if we hit this URL, it will trigger this, this webhook. So I'm gonna hit it in my browser. And yep, we can see those devices are now running through, and there's going to be an alert created as a result of them running through this process. That answer your question?
Y'all are good.
Cool.
There was regarding. Let me, while we're on the topic, regarding the alert with webhook, the webhook trigger can also take an array of device IDs in the body. So if you only wanted to trigger on a specific device.
That's right. So what he's saying, if you go to developers.level.io, this pulls up our documentation for our API. And not only can you restrict it right there in the webhook itself, so if we pull that back up, if I edit this, you'll note like we have this URL that we can hit, or we've selected the devices through tag, but I don't have to do it through tag, which is what they're saying there. Instead, I can restrict it to just certain device IDs. So if I knew the device, I can pass them in right here as an array. And that lets you have full control over what devices enter that automation or not programmatically from the API.
Thank you. One more question. Are there plans to allow running automation actions server side, a use case, if I want to pull in Dell warranty information for all my devices and update a custom field with warranty terms? Is that possible?
One of the actions that we're planning to add in a release very soon is going to be an HTTP action, and that would let you make webhook or web request externally to other systems like warranty information from Dell. And I would imagine that those would be executed server side, but I'm not sure. I would definitely recommend creating a feature request for this. But some actions now are server side, right? Like apply tags is only going to be executed on the server, but I understand what you're asking for. Essentially, you want the ability to make a web request not from each individual device, but from like levels infrastructure. I'm not sure how we would implement the HTTP action, but it's possible it could be through that. But yeah, I'd create a feature request, and I'll try to get with the team and get back to you on that. All right, any other questions?
No questions.
All right, thank you everyone for attending. We want to be respectful to your time, so we'll return the extra time to you, and yeah, look forward to next webinar. It'll probably be on reporting and some of the new functionality around that. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to support. We're happy to help anytime. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys. If you got any questions, follow up. I'm going to drop my email in the chat. Feel free to ping me. Level's also free for up to 10 endpoints. So if you want to spin up an indefinite trial, shoot me an email. Let me know what email you used to create the account, and I'll change the status to indefinite. So cool. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day. See y'all.